Hey everybody, and welcome back to a special spooky edition of the Press Enterprise High School Football Video Podcast. I am Press Enterprise Sports Editor Tim Hare. I am 11 from Stranger Things. I even got the haircut to go with it, and that is supposed to be my little nosebleed.
Ketchup.
Yeah, everything smells like tomatoes right now. This is a penguin that looks a lot like Press Enterprise sports writer Adam Roberts.
This is what I moonlight as, Tim.
Yeah,
The Penguin.
gotcha.
I am the arch villain. Never much for a sidekick. I was really the brains behind all the,
It's going to be hard to take you seriously dressed like that.
Well, you better, because we got something serious to talk about.
We do. Right off the top, let's talk about it. Bloom Central.
Oh, man. 12 years of pain
Yeah.
and misery and suffering. Will it stop?
I think it does. Spoiler alert, I am picking Central to win this week. But I also picked them last year and the year before. And I believe also the year before. So make of that what you will.
So, yeah, don't listen to Tim.
Don't ever.
Yeah, so it looks like Central's going to lose again. No, I hope it's not a case like where it's the groundhog saw his shadow. Not that I have a dog in the race, but it seems like, we were talking to Dennis a little bit before it. Bloomsburg is definitely the more desperate team. The team that really needs to win this game. For so long it seemed like it was the game that Central needed to win, just from a standpoint of where their program was at, maybe not having a whole lot of wins in the past each season. But they're just fine. They need to win, but they don't have to win. They need to win for playoff position.
See now, but I disagree with you a little bit because I feel like there is some desperation on the Central side. No matter what they say, they're favored, and they are expected to win this game for the first time in a long time, and that is its own kind of pressure. Bloom can kind of come in. There's a lot on the line for them, but they're in the position of, you have to beat us. I feel like Bloom can be a little more free and easy in that regard. Although the playoff pressure is its own separate thing.
I think Scott Dennis has the right formula installed in his players coming into this week, where we're not focusing on the title of it being a playoff or a rivalry or anything about the streak. It is simply focused on the opponent that week and getting the win there, which will hopefully help their playoff position. But let's look at, though, a little bit at some of what happened in the past. I mean,
some great games.
Yeah, whether it be something crazy, something fluky, or some heroics. I mean, it seemed like regardless, Bloomsburg has found a way to pull out the victory. Now, we talked with Jason Hippensteel earlier, the last head coach to win a football game over Bloomsburg.
Correct.
Back in 2004, a long time ago, Chris Hall threw a late touchdown pass, and with a combination of a field goal from Pat Yorks, Central beat Bloomsburg 17-10. But from 2005 on, it's been all Bloomsburg. And that 2005 game wasn't a gimme, like many others. I believe there was a fumble on 4th and goal from the 1-yard line in overtime by the Blue Jays that doomed them in 2005. So kind of that black cloud is just followed Central around, and talk to me a little bit about what you've seen and the bad luck that they've had.
I've seen some good ones the last couple of years. I think, it was 2014 when Central got the ball with like 90 seconds left, and they're down 3, and they're trying to drive for the winning points, and Brandon Bryce jumps a route and takes it to the house to kind of, exclamation point. And that goes to a point that we talked about this week, that turnovers have just doomed Central in this game. They're losing fumbles at a 50% rate. Normally you see teams lose them at about half that. And throwing interceptions. And Bloom, the last couple of years, has gotten a lot of pressure on Central quarterbacks, which could be a problem tomorrow because Central has had some trouble protecting Trey Devlin. What saves them there is Devlin's ability to extend plays.
Yeah, Central, just kind of going back to it this year, obviously has been the more sound team. They're a lot more consistent on offense. Both teams bring some good defense to the table. But, it's going to be a matter of who can kind of get that first punch in the game. Who's going to be able to get that momentum and keep it? Bloomsburg's going to have the advantage of the hometown crowd, the senior night crowd, the homecoming crowd, all of that stuff. are they going to be able to make the most of it, or is Central's offense going to kind of keep rolling, even though we talked about them being a little beat up from the past 2 weeks, having, South Williamsport just kind of run and run and run, kind of bully them around in a standpoint where they're kind of just beat up after a physical game. Then you have kind of the emotional toll that, a beating from Southern takes, that you want to get the rivalry win over another local team, but obviously Julian Fleming, Gage Garcia, just too much to handle. And maybe we should talk about that. The Julian Fleming, Gage Garcia show heading into the matchup with Selinsgrove.
Yeah, and I said it in my story from the Central Southern game last week that Central did not play bad defense, which sounds weird in a 42-0 loss. But they put Southern in what for most teams would be uncomfortable positions. 3rd and long, sometimes 4th and long. And Julian Fleming is just kind of the ultimate safety net where they can go to him in those in those situations and he bails you out. I think it makes you wonder a little bit about the Southern offense that, despite all the points and yards, if that lack of balance isn't going to catch up with them in states. I don't think it does. I think they go to Hershey, but that's the thing about you never know when that catches up to someone. It usually surprises you.
You want to find out, get your fingers wetty, and just tweet something to Julian Fleming, because whatever somebody says to him, that is right up on the board for motivation. And I think that says a lot about, him and Southern's offense, Stone included, where you get a team like that behind the sticks, a team that hasn't always been a throwing team. But now that they're so good with Fleming, and Hollenbach is so good with, what he's done, that, you can get a team like that behind the sticks, but they're able to still convert on 3rd down, 3rd and long.
And they also have some other weapons in the passing game. Garcia had a nice touchdown catch. Preston Zachman's nice when they go too wide.
Absolutely.
Anthony Chicatano at tight end, he had a catch last week. So Fleming gets the bulk of the attention, and rightfully so. But there are other weapons that they can take advantage of.
Yeah. Flip the field, though. I mean, all jokes aside about what I've said about Southern secondary, this is going to be the real test this year. I mean, without a doubt, Selinsgrove is going to be the first test as what, the people at Southern called the second season. This is going to be the real test for them to prepare themselves for the team that is going to be the real competition moving forward.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at Logan Libby and Jarrett Inch. Libby's thrown for more than 2,500 yards. The way Southern stops the run, you're going to have to imagine that Libby throws at least 30 passes tomorrow.
Definitely.
And if Southern, if you see a stat line where Southern gives up 200 some passing yards, that's a win for that defense. Because Selinsgrove's going to hit some plays.
Sure.
But, I just don't see a scenario where Selinsgrove does much on the ground. I mean, maybe they run for 100.
It's going to mostly, like you said, it's going to rely on his arm. I saw them against Berwick. They did a great job of getting pressure on Berwick's second-string quarterback. Keep in mind, Jared Marshman was out with an injury still at that point. But they got all over Alex Forrest and forced him out of the game. No pun intended. He got a hard hit and he left with a concussion. So that left Berwick with their third-string quarterback behind the 8 ball. There's not a lot you can do with a third-string quarterback. He doesn't really prepare like he's coming in. I mean, he's playing cornerback the whole game. But one of the most things I was impressed with what Selinsgrove did on offense was the ability for their quarterback to find time and use that to get receivers open downfield. So that's going to be the real struggle for Southern, is to not play the first 3 seconds of defense, but play 7 and 8 seconds of defense.
And that, as a defense, that's such a gut punch. When
Yeah.
you have an offense like that, in a desperate situation, the quarterback extends a play, you think it's a sack or a negative play of some kind. Maybe the secondary breaks down, watching the scrambling, a receiver breaks off a route, and suddenly you're getting a first down or a big play out of it. I mean, it's just demoralizing.
Yeah, I mean, but also this is going to be one of those games that Southern's going to look at and have a big confidence boost moving forward in the playoffs. Because few teams are going to have the established quarterback that Selinsgrove has. Few teams are going to be able to do the things that they do in the passing game where they're able to pick up chunk yards. Yeah, Southern will probably face maybe better athletes going forward, deeper into the playoff runs. But like I said, an established quarterback, that's hard to find in high school. And you mentioned it, the Selinsgrove quarterback, just, he's kind of just done it all for him in his career there.
Yeah, District 4's leading passer. Certainly the toughest test that Southern will have faced to this point. So let's go to Bloom Central for a second. I want a prediction.
Okay.
Who do you see? I already said I think Central. Who do you see winning Bloom Central?
Well, I am a Bloomsburg alumni. Not that I have that tatted on me anywhere. So clean canvas.
Your temple's clean.
Yep. But I am going to have to side with Bloomsburg just because of the fact that you have all that, I'm going to say, momentum coming into the game, so to speak. You have a desperate team pinned against the corner, needing the win to get in the playoffs. You have a homecoming crowd. You have people there for senior night. There's a lot of people there that, you don't want to let down.
So all right, so you're going with the caged animal, the cornered animal theory. That desperation's going to make them elevate their play.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's going to be another blue night for the Blue Jays.
All right, how about Southern Selinsgrove? Now Southern.
I feel confident in picking Southern. Just having seen the Selinsgrove play Berwick, and seeing how good a defense that Berwick plays. And, I mentioned that they had their second string quarterback in there. Would have liked to see what Berwick could do with their starting quarterback in there.
And didn't have Damon Beckhorn either.
No. They didn't have him either, who I would have thought would have really helped in those breakdown and coverages downfield. I got to give the edge to Southern. I feel like their athletes are better, at running back and wide receiver in comparison to Berwick. I feel like their defense is just as good. And their quarterback's at least just as good as Jared. So I think that was a game that Berwick could have won had they had their starters. And I think it's a game that Southern wins because they have their starters and that offense is just clicking.
Yeah, I agree that Southern wins this one. And, looking at the schedule that we have this week, there are a lot of games that, at least on paper, don't seem like they'll be that competitive. Mount Carmel playing a Shamokin team that's got one win. Danville against a Warrior Run team that's still kind of down. So I wanted to finish out here by talking about a team we haven't talked a lot about this season on the podcast. The Votech Rams.
My favorite to talk about.
117 points the last 2 weeks. A little step up.
Bob Quick.
No, he's got that offense going.
He does. I mean, he has been the missing link. I think everybody will admit it there. I think there's nobody who's unhappy about the situation. I think, looking at it, maybe there's some questions that people have. Okay, head coach not calling the plays anymore, giving up the duties to the offensive coordinator. But I think that says a lot about a guy who is of the boss. Your head coach has to be the boss, has to be the guy that runs the show. And to be able to take a step back and realize the strengths and weaknesses of your company, of your ship, I think recognizing that, okay, maybe that we have a better strength with somebody else calling plays, I think that's absolutely benefited the Rams 100%.
Yeah, and I was very, very impressed when I talked to Mark Varner in the preseason. And he said, we talked to the kids about, what's going to make the team better. And he said, is it going to make the team better if Bob calls the offense? He said, if I'm not willing to make that sacrifice, then how can I ask the kids to make the sacrifice?
Sure.
I think it's very admirable to, kind of have like self-awareness and, just the confidence that, look, I'm still in charge. I still inform how things are done here, and kind of, hand that off a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's also dynamic that, the players kind of wondered about too, not just people on the outside. And I think, even if they might have had some questions going into the season, the personalities of the two coaches helped alleviate any kind of questions that might have had. I could see Varner being the more disciplinarian of the two, and kind of, Bob Quick kind of being like the dad there, just kind of like, hey, come on guys, this is what you guys need to do. The balance, and I think that's been something that Votech's been looking for.
What is your favorite Halloween candy?
Not candy corn. Thumbs down.
Yeah.
Who likes that? Nobody.
Garbage people.
I tell you,
not people who collect garbage for a living. I mean, people who are garbage.
Yeah. Definitely got to question character if you're eating candy corn. I definitely have to go with. I mean, I'm a
peanut butter cups.
I love the peanut butter cups, but I always used to get the small Snickers.
Oh,
I'm a snack size Snickers guy.
That's a
because
classic.
you're not you when you're hungry.
That's right. All right. Well,
we're gonna go eat some Eggos. Me and 11.
Would you like a waffle?
Yeah, I would actually.
Yeah, dig in. Well, that's going to do it for this week's podcast. But if you liked what you saw, please check out pressenterpriseonline.com. You can find links to the playbook, and we're pretty excited about this week's cover. And all our coverage from games with tweets and live score updates. So please check that out. But for Adam Roberts, how's the waffle?
We're pretty good. Did you make these?
Yeah, homemade, family recipe. For Adam Roberts, I'm Tim Hare, and we will see you at the games, and we will see you next week.